You know, niggas gotta get their priorities together. Got their mind on the wrong things, spending their money in the wrong way.
Trapaholic, real trap shit.
Say you need that car with the rims and a trunk, just like Jim. It's more than life. Yeah.
I'm telling you. Talk to him.
Say you need that LV bag with the belt and the hat.
That's all you got though.
It's more than life. Yeah.
Talk to him. Real.
Say you wanna turn up at the club, like some bottles, and press them guns. It's more than life.
Fucking everybody.
Yeah.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Saints and Appetizers podcast. And who dat? And we got some main course for you, some more main course. It's going to be let's see here, it's going to be the Chicago Bears versus the New Orleans Saints at noontime in New Orleans. And this should be an interesting game. This should tell a lot about the Saints season. Like, have they gotten over the hump yet of their earlier prior season struggles that they've been dealing with? It'll be interesting. It'll be really interesting to see if they can get some consistency going and continue the offensive onslaught that they started in Indianapolis. To see if they can continue it and keep it going, and it should be able to do it against a far inferior team in the Chicago Bears. But before we get into like some of the injury reports and some of the other news and notes, I just want to shout someone out real quick. I want to shout out Neville Lewis 3547. He on the last podcast he shouted out who dat, in the comment section, and I just want to say right back to you, who dat, man, who dat. I love the love. I love hearing from people, the responses. So anyone that comments and subscribes or likes or shares or anything like that, if I identify you, I'm gonna shout you out, just like I am Neville Lewis 3547 right now. So yeah, just I want to hear from you. I want likes and subscribes. That's not something I'm plugging for on every video, but if I get some shout outs, some fans, some noise from fans or new subscribers, I'm gonna let you know that I feel it. I know that I identified it. It didn't just go by the wayside. So who dat, Neville Lewis 3547. I love hearing from you. So let's get into the injury report, because this has to be the best injury report, shortest injury report that the Saints have had since like week 1, week 2. So this is like the healthiest the Saints have been, about as healthy as they've been like all year. So that's another reason why the Saints should hopefully be able to string together a couple wins here, at least in this game coming up, because they're healthy. They pretty much have everyone healthy. Like, there's no one really out with an actual injury. It seems like a lot of people got that GI bug, or like Alvin Kamara said, they got a lot of people in the locker room got the shit bugs. So they're having to be careful and be wearing adult diapers, because that GI, that illness, that flu bug that they're dealing with, that seems to have been affecting pretty much everyone in the locker room. So it'd be interesting to see if like one or two of these guys that missed this week due to that illness will end up missing. But let's get into this. So can I get a menu? And so Ty Summers, who's just like a special teams like linebacker, who's just third, fourth strings. Probably hadn't heard too much about him, but I guess he sustained a concussion and a hamstring injury in the game against the Colts. So he didn't practice Wednesday, Thursday, or Friday, and he is out for the game against the Bears. That's his game status. And then Lynn Bowden Lynn Bowden, like Lynn Bowden Jr., wide receiver, dealing with like illness. So he was dealing with that illness, whatever that is, been going around. Uh, he didn't practice Wednesday, but was limited Thursday and then was full on Friday. So he should be back and be interesting. It's kind of interesting. He had some interesting snaps in the game against the Colts. He was on the line and in motion and was a lead blocker for some plays. He was playing the Brandon Coleman kind of role. The blocking role, the Traquan Smith role of being an inline blocker or trying to get blocks on the outside for running backs and Taysom Hill as a wide receiver. So uh, be good that don't miss someone like that. That they're finally figuring out how they like to use them. So just unspecific game status for Len Bowden Jr. And then Michael Thomas, wide receiver, was dealing with that illness. Had to worry about him shitting his britches just like a day before the game, but he toughed it out and played and had some really tough catches over the middle and on the sidelines. I think he was the Saints' second leading receiver in the game behind Rashid Shaheed. So Michael Thomas, he was limited on Wednesday, but was full on Thursday and full on Friday, and no unspecific game status, but I'm sure he'll be back, and that's good to see that he's back at 100%. And then Andres Pete, who maybe had his best game of the season, best game of his season this year against the Colts, and possibly the best start that the Saints have had at left tackle this year as well. So they have him listed on here as a guard, but he can play any position. Was been dealing with that ankle injury for about 3-4 weeks now, but he was limited on Wednesday, but was full on Thursday and Friday, and then is listed as unspecific. So it should be interesting to see what the Saints end up doing with their offensive line lineup, seeing how it was so successful against the Colts, and they only allowed one sack to DeForest Buckner against the Colts. It would be interesting to see if they end up mixing stuff up after they finally feels like they've kind of gotten something working. They got some cohesion on the offensive line. But he should be good to go. Unspecific game status, and then Taysom Hill, quarterback, striker, a little bit of everything. Has been dealing with a hip. He was limited on Wednesday, limited on Thursday, but full on Friday, and then unspecific game status. And he's with the games that the Saints have won this year. He's been a big part of all of them. So they definitely need a healthy Taysom Hill to get his, 15 touches a game, and that's combined either throwing, running, or catching. And he needs to get his touches. And then James Hurst, guard. And this is where I'm talking about the initial plan for the offensive line and the left tackle was to have James Hurst as your left tackle, like he had been in previous seasons, and he was going to be the left tackle for I guess, a good remainder of the season. But he started at left tackle against the Texans, and then went out, and then that thrusted Andreas Pete into the lineup, and then so he's got an ankle injury in that game against the Texans. But he was limited on Wednesday, limited on Thursday, and full on Friday, unspecific, no game time status. I've heard some reports saying that he's going to play or he's going to start. I'm really interested in what that means exactly. Seeing how the Saints look like they finally kind of got something that's like a respectable offensive line lineup going. And like I said, I think that Andrews Peters looked like the best left tackle the Saints have had this season. So I don't know if I agree really with changing up stuff on the offensive lineman, because that would be just like, it feels like the way the offensive line's been, that they've had like a different combination like almost every week, and it's not all been due to injuries. It's just been, some of it's been due to injuries, but a good portion of it's just been due to poor play. If James Hurst is going to play, I would prefer him to just maybe go back to the guard position, taking Max Garcia's spot. But I don't think I would agree with moving him back outside. All right, so be very, very interested to see what the offensive line does, and depending on, no matter what combination they do with it, if it's works, then it'll be good. But if it's bad, then there'll be people that'll have a lot to say about it. They'll have some comments for sure. All right, so on to the next player here. I've got Demario Davis, linebacker. Been dealing with a knee injury for a couple weeks now, and been having to wear a big brace. I don't know if it's something more serious than something that's going to heal over the season, or if it's just something that have to play through the rest of the season and get surgery after the season, or what the deal is exactly. But he hasn't had, his snap count hasn't been quite as high as it's usually is. It's usually like 100%, but it hasn't been that high the last 2-3 games. But even so, he led the team with 12 total tackles, 6 solo, 6 assists last week against the Colts. But he was limited Wednesday, he was limited Thursday, and limited Friday. No unspecific, no game time designation. And then on to a couple more illnesses here. Malcolm Roach, defensive tackle, illness. It wasn't bothering him on Wednesday, but then it must have really gave him some problems on Thursday. But then he was back limited on Friday, and he's listed as questionable. And then this is the one that kills me. It seems like Kendra Miller always gets the short end of the stick for something. It's always a knee injury or a hamstring injury, and now it's one thing that he got the illness. It's not that big a deal. It's not that big a surprise, because it seems like almost every Saints player has had it now. But the reason that his is annoying is because out of all the games he's missed due to like ticky-tack injuries, this could be one that he misses as well. And the reason for that is, so Kendra Miller, running back, illness, didn't have it Wednesday, wasn't bothering him Wednesday, wasn't bothering him Thursday. But then, of course, it has to pop up on the last day of practice, so just like 2 days before the game. So that leaves him questionable for the game. The same thing happened last week, but to Michael Thomas. But I wouldn't put Kendra Miller and Michael Thomas on the same stratosphere of players that probably play through something simple as an illness. Michael Thomas is showing that he's him at times in the past. Kendra Miller, he's already missed some games due to some minor stuff. So I wouldn't be surprised if Kendra Miller ends up missing this game due to the illness, which thankfully Jamal Williams is back and healthy, and he was picking up some tough runs and yardage against the Colts. So I don't think it'd be a huge loss if the Saints end up going into the game against the Bears with just Alvin Kamara and Jamal Williams. But that's pretty much the gist of their injury report. I mean, there's really only one player that's really on it that's is dealing with a serious injury or hamstring. He's dealing with a concussion and didn't practice all week. So I mean, this is the healthiest the Saints have been since week 1, week 2. So they going into this game. This game is going to be at home. They already had a nice showing against the Colts last week. Like there's really no excuse for them to lose this game against the Chicago Bears, and their injury report will add on to reason for that. So let's get into the Bears injury report now. So Jaquan Brisker, safety, and I'm pretty sure he's like a starter there. He's either second string starter. He's definitely a rotational safety for them. He's dealing with a concussion, and he didn't practice Wednesday, didn't practice Thursday, didn't practice Friday, and he is out. So that's like one of their rotational, or maybe even their starting safety. And then Nate Davis, offensive lineman, ankle. Didn't practice Wednesday, didn't practice Thursday, didn't practice Friday, and he is out. And I'm pretty sure he if nothing else, he's like a sixth offensive lineman for them. So that there's two like quality players that they're already missing off their injury report. And then Tremaine Edmonds, middle linebacker, knee, didn't practice Wednesday, didn't practice Thursday, didn't practice Thursday, out. So they're starting middle linebacker Tremaine Edmonds is out of this game as well. So there's like three starters or three rotational play pieces that get snap counts, you know. And then Justin Fields, quarterback, right thumb, didn't practice Wednesday, didn't practice Thursday, and then limited on Friday, but is doubtful. So I wouldn't expect to see him. We're going to see that Tyson Bagnet or whatever his name is, that backup quarterback, that rookie quarterback. And then Eddie Jackson, defensive back, safety. I think that's their other starting safety, dealing with a foot injury. He was full all week and no game time designation. And then Braxton Jones, offensive tackle, neck. He was limited Wednesday, limited Thursday, and full on Friday and listed as questionable, but I imagine he would play. Lucas Patrick, offensive lineman, back, full all week, no game time designation. And then Terrell Smith, defensive back. So I think that's another one of their nickel or dime defensive backs. He's dealing with that illness. It must have been hitting him hard because he didn't practice Wednesday, Thursday, or Friday, and it's just already listed as out. And then Larry Boro, guard, must have been non-injury related, personal, wasn't on the injury report Wednesday, and then didn't practice Thursday, and then was back full on Friday, no game time designation. So comparing these two injury reports, the Chicago Bears got a couple starters out on theirs, and the Saints are just missing like a special teams linebacker is all they're missing. So injuries should not be an excuse, even though the Saints have been in the plus side compared to their opponents a couple times this year when it comes to like significant injuries, and the Saints haven't been able to take advantage of it. But the Bears are a struggling team. You know, they only have like one win or something this year. So let's hope the Saints can not play down to their opponents and try to get this win. Pull it up here. Trying to figure out if the Bears are 1-6 or 1-6 or 6 or 2-5. What their record was. They're 2-6. 2-6. I was wanting to say 1-6, but they're 2-6. They picked up a couple of those wins like right as it seemed like Justin Fields was kind of getting comfortable and he was starting to play good, and then of course he got hurt and they haven't hardly won anything since. But so that's the injury report. It's about as positive as it's looked all year this season for the Saints. So they need to take advantage of that. All right. So now let's get to player of the game, hot take, and game picks and scores. All right. So I got kind of a funny one here, and I don't know if on stats wise, this might not show up as like a player of the game, but I like what he's doing. He's playing that fridge role, uh, like the Chicago Bears back in the day. I'm talking about Colin Sanders, the big defensive tackle, the nose tackle, uh, playing that lead blocker, being the fullback for uh, Taysom Hill mostly on runs, and then sometimes even Alvin Kamara out of the eye. So I'm my player of the game. Like I said, it may not show up on stats because he may not have touchdowns or anything to show for it. But I'm picking Colin Saunders as my player of the game. I'm picking him to lead block at least once or twice for a touchdown for Alvin Kamara or more than likely Taysom Hill because that's where we've seen him the most. But I'm looking for Colin Sanders to help lead block and help the Saints score some rushing touchdowns in this game. And just hopefully, just because I picked him, hopefully he doesn't do like any of that and ends up having like 2 sacks and a forced fumble and an interception from his natural position of defensive tackle. That would be very on brand. I'm picking him for what he's doing on offense. He'll end up having like a career day on defense. But I'm here for it. I'm here for it. All right. And now this is the one thing that has annoyed me the most. This is picking like a hot take for the Bears. So it's almost I've said this before. Some of my hot takes are almost just like picking a player of the game for the opponent. But I feel like this is something that the Saints just can't seem to get lucky on dodging. Doesn't matter how bad a team is. Doesn't matter if the team is 2-6. For some reason, the Saints they've been dealing with issues with how their offensive line and stuff is played all year, and you got these teams like the Redskins doing fire sales and other teams doing fire sales at the trade deadline. So you wouldn't think that the Chicago Bears would be trading to get a pass rusher or try to better, heighten the play of their defense by trading away a second round pick for Montez Sweat. So that's what the Saints are going to end up. That's going to end up. He's going to end up having instant impact for the Bears and instant negative impact against the Saints. So I'm picking Montez Sweat to have 2 sacks in this game and even a forced fumble. I think it'll be kind of similar to last week against the Colts where the Saints Derek Carr gets strip sacked deep in their own territory, and that leads to some kind of score, either a touchdown or a field goal for the Bears. But yeah, the Saints just couldn't. They couldn't have waited one more week or something. I know the trade deadline was on that day, so they couldn't have waited any longer. But I mean, come on, they couldn't have traded Montez Sweat to someone else that's not on the Saints schedule because I mean he's having a career year, and I just feel like he's going to play and he's going to have an instant impact, and it's going to affect the Saints because he's played in 8 games, started 8 games, has a pass deflection, has those two forced fumbles. So I have a odd suspicion that he may force one against the Saints, causing some issues, causing some stress. And then he has 6.5 sacks already, 32 combined tackles, 21 solo, 11 assists, and 10 tackles for loss and 10 quarterback hits. So he's wreaking havoc. If only the Saints would have had a second or a third round pick or some mid round picks in general to possibly trade for a quality player, Montez Sweat, but they ended up having to go to a team that's 2-6 for some reason. It seems like a very odd move, a very suspicious move by the Chicago Bears. It'll be one of the biggest waste of a second round pick ever if they're not able to re-sign him to a long-term deal. But so yeah, that's my hot take is that Montez Sweat's going to come in first game as a Bear, and he's going to wreak some havoc for the Saints. All right, and now to the game pick here. Uh, I don't think the Saints are going to have as good of a offensive showing as they did against the Colts. I don't think they're going to explode again. But at the same time, I think maybe their defense is going to play a little bit better. Maybe they'll get their ish together and maybe not allow 17 points in the first half 4 weeks in a row. So I'm picking the Saints to win this, and I'm picking them to win 26-16. So they're gonna put up some points, but they're not gonna score 30 or 30 plus or anything. But the big one for me is the 16 that they're only gonna allow to the Bears. They're not gonna allow that annoying 17 plus points in the first quarter, first half that they've been doing the last 3 weeks. That makes you feel like, oh man, they're on pace to give up about 32 points. And then luckily their defense has been pretty much locked down in the second half of all those games. And thinking combine those 3 games in the second half, it's such a weird stat. In those 3 games combined, in the second half, they've only allowed 17 points. But in the first half of all 3 of those games, they've allowed 17 plus. That's such a crazy stat. But hopefully they can get their stuff together and have their game time adjustments already prepared for the first half, so they don't have to keep battling back or worry about the opposing team scoring 30 plus points on them, which they've luckily been able to handle that, but they haven't been able to get out of those games with wins. They're only 1-2 in those games. So hopefully the defense can play better. But I'm excited for this game. I think this is the first time I've been excited again since they lost to the Texans and lost to the Jaguars. It felt like the season was over and it's about time to do a fire sale and fire all the coaches and all that. But we're first in the NFC South now, so we're back. We're back, and I'm excited for a game again this year. And I'm sure it's going to be a roller coaster, and they're going to end up losing to someone they shouldn't lose to, and it'll just be burn it all, set it all on fire again, and then everyone in the NFC or NFC South loses, and we're back. We're back. That's what it's going to be a lot of this season. But hey, I'm here for it, so I'm ready. But anyways, I think that's all I have for you. So who dat? And can I get a check, please?